Copy that. We're counting on you. Ready to initiate the power calibration sequence.
Affirmative. Initiating now. Let's bring that sunlight home.
We need a big structure, which will be a few kilometers long and a few thousand tons heavy.
We want to decarbonize, to move away from fossil fuels.
The UK is at the forefront of energy solutions.
The moon is a launching pad for our future exploration. Yes, and quicker than most people think.
It's not science fiction anymore. It's happening now.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the channel. Today is a very important day, and as you saw in the trailer, we have somebody very special here, Yelena Ganshof, who is a documentary filmmaker, and yeah, she's going to have she has an interesting story to tell us, and we'll be talking about it soon. So, welcome, Yelena. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, inviting me here for the podcast.
Okay, great. Well, Yelena Ganshof is a Swiss-based documentary filmmaker and producer. She's known for making complex scientific and technological topics accessible to broad audiences. She often focuses on biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and future energy systems such as space-based solar power. Born in Russia and later establishing her career in Switzerland, Yelena works as a producer, screenwriter, and director. She is founder and the driving force behind Inside Tomorrow, her media label, where she positions herself as a documentary producer. Her motto is making complex science fun, and this reflects her emphasis on a narrative-driven storytelling for her films. Yelena achieved recently international attention as the producer and co-director of a feature documentary called The Messenger, a science-focused film tracing the development of mRNA vaccines and featuring a group of scientists who later became Nobel Prize winners in 2023. Well, building on that success, she is currently developing the documentary film called Chasing the Sun, co-directed with Tom Keller, which focuses on space, energy, climate, and technology narratives. Okay, Yelena, now it's your turn. Okay, tell me, what motivated you to get started working on the film Chasing the Sun?
Well, growing up in the country of the first space flight of Yuri Gagarin, I've been following major space adventures and endeavors, regardless where I lived, whether it was in Siberia, in Moscow, in Singapore, in the US, and now in Switzerland. So it was always been very fascinating as a topic. As I remember my childhood, the posters of Gagarin were pretty much everywhere, in school books, on television, and especially on the cosmonaut date, which is a 12th of April every year we celebrate it. I see Gagarin standing with his big Hollywood-like smile. So who said Russians don't know how to smile? So space in Russia is like a national religion, and so that's everyone is following it. And as for space-based solar power, I never came across this concept. And in fact, I was following the solar technology on the ground. I even met with someone in Switzerland called Raphael Damjan. He's a solar explorer who did the world tour on a solar boat. And we went discussing, and he pointed to me saying that this is the cheapest technology today on the ground. And I was saying that he's totally right. In fact, it's the cheapest source of energy when the sun is shining, but when it's not shining, then it's a different story. So when I stumbled across an article in the media about someone building a solar farm in space, I was like, wow. I got emotionally moved and also intellectually challenged. And immediately I imagined this hundreds of astronauts in space putting solar panels together like a cosmic puzzle, possibly connected with a tube so that they can breathe, tube to their spacecraft. And I was thinking, the risk, the danger, what, this is absolutely crazy. Who is who is behind this whole concept? So I started searching, and behind this article was Solaris. That was the post. And Solaris at that time was programmed by European Space Agency. And that's how I was curious enough. I connected with Sanjay Vijendran, who was the head of Solaris, and he responded to me immediately. And right away, he invited me to participate in a space-based solar power conference. Space-based solar power became like the technical term that everyone in the community knows. And that time, the conference was still held online because we were still in this aftermath of pandemic. And when I joined the conference, I was struck by all different international participants coming from the US, from Europe, from Asia. There were quite a few from Japan Aerospace Agency, which is a very important participant in the story, from China, from South Korea, speaking about their demonstrations. I was like, I was totally immersed and fascinated, even though some of the technical terms I could not understand. I still need to kind of Google it and or speak to my chat AI assistant. But I was fully fascinated. That's how the development of Chasing the Sun started.
And Chasing the Sun also happens to be the name of the Chinese space solar power project called Zhuri. So I'm going to show a small clip of the Zhuri program, and then we will talk to Yelena afterwards.
It's not only the Western world that is chasing the sun, looking for new solutions. I think that the rest of the world is looking for new solutions, especially in this sensitive time when like the Strait of Hormuz is blocked and we feel so vulnerable and dependent on the pipelines, on the shipping lanes, on everything like that. So China, I know it's an undisputable leader in building solar farms on the ground. And I believe they have more than half of the total global of solar farms on the planet today. They produce solar panels for the whole world and for itself.
Well, what you just said, I mean, in my own personal experience, I mean, you grew up in Russia and you experienced it firsthand there. I had relationships with Russia. I flew several projects on the Russian Mir station, and I worked directly with the Russians, and they were just very enthusiastic. And we were concentrating on the cultural aspects of space, and they tried everything they could to make the projects happen. It was very good. And now, mentioning Sanjay, of course, he was the technical officer for a study that I did with about space solar power with the European Space Agency.
Correct.
So I was a part of that conference as well, as you know. Well, anyway,
that's how we connected as well.
That's how we connected. That's great. So now for you, just how did this idea emerge or evolve from science fiction to science reality for you?
Science fiction to science reality sounds science fact. I think by listening to all the facts, those participants whom I met later in London at the next space-based solar power conference, I met with John Munkins, who is a veteran of space-based solar power. And he has his own concept. The father, yeah. the grandson.
Not exactly, but in recent times.
Yes, very respected figure. And Martin Soltau from Space Solar, that is based in the UK, Virtuous Solace with Tate, and they all had their concepts. Cassiopeia of Space Solar, and then Virtuous Solace had a concept satellite they planned to build in Molniya orbit. And also, I want to say that I wasn't sure at that time what was the difference between LEO, GEO,
Exactly.
Molniya. I was like a 6-year-old child in a conference with those very technical guys pitching and showing their presentations. I was impressed, but like I was in parallel on my phone just checking. I was like, what is this velocity? That was from my physics class.
Sure.
So, but I think I was not too shy asking what they call silly questions. That most likely it's a common sense for those people. But for me, coming from outside, it was like a discovery. I was in Discovery Channel.
Yeah. Well,
Let me put it this way.
I mean, your education has been fantastic. And really, this is the point. I mean, the scientists have been talking and the engineers have been talking to each other for years. But I think the topic is so important for humanity that the moment is now to get this out to the world. And that's what you're doing. I think you have a very important role to play here in making this complex topic more fun for the people so they understand not only that it's possible, but also how important it is.
Correct. And the idea is to explain it in more of a very comprehensive way, fun way that people will say, oh yeah, now I get it. Now I understand, because I went and I digested, guys, for you, so that normal human being can understand what's happening. And I'm trying to connect the dots from my angle, through my lens, cinematographic and filmmaking lens, what actually is happening and what does it mean. So when I started noticing the new players like Arthur Flux, which is now called Cowboy Space Corporation, that is founded by Beiju Bhatt, who co-founded Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So he is a big figure. Then I noticed Overview Energy and many others who started coming into the community. Just like, okay, this is now serious. It's not science fiction. It's not a question of if. It's a question of when. Okay. So that was a big question, and there are different concepts. There are different beaming ways of microwave. There's laser, radio frequency, mirrors, you name it. But I think the whole idea as a concept of beaming energy to the ground is quite revolutionary.
Right, and most of the technologies have existed for a long time. It's just a matter of pulling the right technologies together in the right system. And I think that's where the community is going right now. And there's a lot of experimentation going, as you mentioned, with the different technological approaches. And sooner or later, there's going to be a breakthrough that's going to make this happen. And I think we're right now at the threshold of seeing a series of in-space demonstrations of space solar power. I think the Japanese will have the first one quite soon, and several are planned from next year, different technological demonstrations in space. Also, beaming from space down to Earth should happen with the Japanese project soon, but also with some of the other ones that are scheduled for next year. So this is very, very exciting, and that's we just have to build on that,
Exactly. So, so I'm looking forward to when it's going to happen and kind of filming a number of demonstrations.
Well, I think you're really well positioned to, for already being involved in the topic as a filmmaker, that you have the inside track on after meeting quite a few of the principal people in this already, that you will be ready to film the breakthrough moments when they happen. So they make a very exciting film.
Yeah, very exciting film, very exciting story, and the story is not didn't end yet. I feel like we are in the beginning of this unfolding story where nobody believed in, or not nobody believed in, but majority didn't believe, and they're like underground community bubbling and working for decades on their ideas and concepts against all the failures and against unsuccessful testing, waiting for the technologies to catch up with the robotics, with artificial intelligence, with reusable rockets. That is new. Now everyone is waiting for a Starship.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think this concept is going to happen in your lifetime or sooner?
I hope so, though I had a little doubt at some point, and this doubt happened when Solaris got shut down.
Yeah.
I got really disappointed. Already in 2024, I believe the rumor started, it might be shutting down, it might be closing the program. After the whole critical article that came out, written by someone who was previously part of the European Space Agency.
That and I really remember a shock. Yeah.
It was a shock. And I remember the company of Martin Soltau, Space Solar, they wrote a whole contra article answering pretty much every critical questions pointed in that initial article. But regardless of that, Solaris got shut down, and Sanjay left Solaris, and I was upset. I was like, I'm in the development of this very exciting story. What do we do? And then I said, maybe that's the best thing that happened. These guys, regardless of all these critical voices, regardless of everything, they continue believing and going and building their concepts and pitching and fundraising.
Yeah.
And I remember Sanjay, who left the agency, and he continued uniting all those space-based solar pioneers for the next conference that happened in November 2025. But I didn't know that by that time the conference happened, he was already a co-founder of TerraSpark, a new startup that is now one of the leading forces in space-based solar power.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's quite amazing, because everybody was really shocked when Solaris was shut down. And what was understandable is that the director of ESA, Joseph Eschbacher, had given a presentation at the World Economic Forum, which was very positive about space solar power. So
I listened myself to the presentation. I listened.
And then all of a sudden it was just today it never has been totally explained why Solaris was shut down and why the European Space Agency, whose job is to develop technology, decided not to further develop this, even though it's being developed around the world. So we will see how this all pans out in the future,
And now, when Elon Musk spoke at Davos in January 2026, a few months ago, he spoke about data center in space, catching the solar energy, and then beaming. For everyone was like, oh yeah, like it was common sense. I was like, hold on, guys. Nobody said, oh yeah, before. Now everyone said, oh yeah, data centers in space. That will, take and grasp and harvest this limitless solar energy, and we do computational in space.
Well, unfortunately, data centers in space has very similar technologies to space solar power, but and it can be a parallel development, but it's very interesting that all of a sudden this makes a lot of sense when actually it has similar technological challenges that space solar power community has been looking at for 40 or 50 years. So, but everybody got excited and they just supported the new SpaceX IPO with this idea. So we will see how that develops. But anyway, at least the technology is going forward, and wow, it's so important to the future of humanity. If you look at the world today and how essential energy is to everything that we touch and need, and just how the climate issue and the demand for raising the standard of living for much of the world could really benefit from having a clean source of unlimited electricity from space,
True. Energy is everything. Energy is a source of development, economic development, evolution, but it's also a political leverage.
Well, it's
unfortunately.
A lot of our conflicts today are about energy in the big picture. So, listen, along your development, I mean, what were some of the, how do we call them, the aha moments that you had along your pathway?
I have a collection of aha moments. Which one to start? I remember one of the first ones. I remember speaking to Brian Zetland from Virtual Solaris, who is actually a professor, and he likes to kind of teach things. And we were speaking about data centers in space, exactly about that. And I said, yeah, I didn't know. So I'm speaking about data centers, and yeah, it's common sense because space is cold. And he said, actually, did you know space is not cold? I said, what do you mean it's not cold? No, it's not cold, Yelena. It's like vacuum. Okay. And depending on the object, whether the object is facing the sun or in the shadow of the sun, the temperatures can fluctuate like crazy from plus 150 degrees Celsius to minus 150 degrees Celsius. Oh my God, this is crazy. I'm like, oh, wow. And the same on the moon, because on the moon, there's no weather, there are no clouds, there's no atmosphere. It's space weather, vacuum. There's certain gravity. So then I started kind of researching and discovering the moon. Then I realized that there's lots of dust on the moon. It's extremely dusty. And if the rocket is launched from the moon, the dust will not settle like on Earth. It might certain part will settle, but a lot of part will just like very abrasive particles will just fly together with the rocket into space, because kind of moon is part of the space. Yeah. So I didn't know that. I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And when my thinking arrived to the moon, I was thinking, okay, but everyone is kind of racing to the moon for something. Why the heck are we racing to the moon when we can hardly land on the moon at this point? So I started searching, actually, who owns the moon? And Brian advised me, he said, you need to read the book. The book is called Who Owns the Moon by Cynthia Levinson. And I actually met with her. We discussed what I realized that, okay, space orbits and the moon is all under international treaty. It's in international territory. But what was interesting is that there was a moon treaty that was signed in 1979 that was signed only by 17 nations, not everyone, and Russia and China is not part of those who signed. Okay, to make the long story short, in the legal fiction it sounds like we do not own the moon, but we may own what we extract from it. So the mineral resources will belong to someone. who will be the first one to arrive and extract those resources and then put a flag on those resources. So, and I said, that's very, very interesting.
Well, the legal framework for this is the Outer Space Treaty, which quite a few countries have signed on to, and it's the only functioning treaty at the moment. And you have thousands of space lawyers around the world trying to refine it and think of the future. And there's been other proposals to expand upon it and to make it worthwhile. But it's a difficult question. You know, like you said, the book "Who Owns the Moon?" This is going to be a very, very important question in the future. Once humanity actually goes to the moon and wants to develop its resources, you know. And I mean, that's a part of the study that I was working on with Sanjay at ESA, which is called the Greater.Earth Lunar Power Station. And the focus of our study is, could we build solar power satellite components from lunar materials by setting up a manufacturing facility on the moon? And if that would work, wouldn't it make sense just to expand on that operation to make components for solar power satellites for Earth, because it's much easier and less environmentally questionable to actually send those from the moon to the Earth as opposed to launching them from the Earth into orbit. So I personally think that's one of the most important or one of the most interesting visionary ideas about going to the moon. And actually it creates a business case because you have the immense energy market on Earth, which would finance this manufacturing facilities on the moon. And optimistically, this should be done as a global cooperative operation for everybody's benefit. So that's some of the hopes that I have about this topic, and I'm very interested in that aspect too.
Yeah, I was very impressed with this study. And then now when Elon Musk is speaking about the lunar mass driver, and he's in his idea, he's already going to the moon and to build the computational chips on the moon with Optimus, with the robotics basically. And then I was looking and researching, comparing the space elevator and lunar mass driver. So lunar mass driver is great concept. In fact, I like it a lot. The main difference is like a catapult that with the incredible speed is bringing whatever we want to bring from the moon into space. And the space elevator is more of a slow motion. It's more careful. And the thing is that I think that the space elevator goes up and goes down.
Exactly.
With the catapult, we cannot come back on the lunar mass drive. That's the main big difference.
Now, the mass driver is probably best suited for launching raw materials from the moon into space. This could be solid phase, maybe helium-3 could be an ignites that they could launch into space, but raw materials, because the acceleration forces are so high that for sensitive electronic components like solar panels, it doesn't make as much sense. And rockets don't make so much sense either, because you pointed out before, because of the dust, launching a lot of rockets would create a lot of environmental aspects there. And that's why I think the Lunar Space Elevator makes so much sense. And it is a two-way transportation system, and the acceleration levels are low enough that you can actually send delicate parts into space from the moon and actually deliver stuff back to the moon with an elevator. So that's another important thing, because you can only have one lunar space elevator. And that means this should be managed also by some kind of global organization with everybody involved in it, and not just, you know, one company or one entity or one country trying to own that canal between Earth and the moon, you know. It's a very important aspect.
The station for you would be in a certain point in space. How do you see it? So, for example, a spacecraft will arrive to that point, kind of a dock in, load the whatever materials to put in the elevator and basically send it down, with maybe also humans as well. I don't know.
Well, probably it would be too slow for transportation from Earth to the moon with humans, but for materials it doesn't really matter. But the way it works is that you would send a cable up to the moon, and there's a point between the Earth and Moon called the Lagrange point 1, which is between the moon and the Earth, and that's kind of a stable point there. So that's where you would set up your assembly your assembly system right there. So from the Lagrange point 1, you would go down to a point on more or less on the equator of the moon, which would be your base point, and you would anchor there. And the materials for a lunar space elevator exist already today. It's not, whereas a space Earth to space elevator, they're still waiting on some exotic nanotechnology for this to eventually happen. But the lunar elevator can actually be built with today's technology solar system.
No, no, I believe that the moon is a place that could be fully industrialized and moved at certain parts
Yeah.
of our Earth industry
Okay.
to the moon, and there could be new fields developed. That's for sure. But what I realized, it's probably non-human conditions in a certain way of temperatures fluctuating like crazy. Humans can only stay in certain habitat
Right.
underground on the moon and maybe come for a certain shift
Well,
to the
in our
moon.
study, in our study, we actually had a very small human crew.
Mhm.
Almost everything was using autonomous robots to do most of the work. The factory modules would be prefabricated on Earth and sent to the moon and just installed, so they'd all be tested ahead of time, so you could get right on with the work. And but you would definitely need a small crew to manage and to troubleshoot things, so that's very important too. But we didn't see the need for a very, very big crew. And yes, you would have to have the whole it adds a lot to have a large human presence on the moon. You have to have life support systems to support all of that. So
Oh, you
that's
said a humanoid. You
exactly. So
said
so anyway, that's part of the future. We'll see how
that's
that goes.
let's call it not science fiction, let's call it science future.
Yeah, science future, right? Exactly. So so at the moment, what is your motivation right now? What is the point of this film for you?
The point, although when I think about the energy station, I immediately imagine first the station, the hydroelectric station where I grew up as a child in Bratsk. When it was launched in 1961, at that moment, it was the most powerful, the biggest energy station on the planet. No discussion. So that in the 60s, it transformed an absolute remote corner of Siberia into the kind of energy capital of the Soviet Union. Who would have thought I would grow up in the energy capital? Um, Electricity was everywhere. It was natural, like air or water. It was very affordable. We're very comfortable in our apartments, even when it was freezing cold outside, -30. Walking, wearing basically t-shirts inside. At school as well, we had uniform, of course. And that was look, so energy was everywhere. I never imagined that in Western Europe people are wearing sweaters and kind of saving on energy. Energy was a resource. And as I said, that after I realized that how energy is a drive of economic development and a leverage of political will. So when we speak now about the potential station in orbit that can deliver or beam energy as a pointed beam to pretty much anywhere on the ground, to Switzerland, to Greenland,
Yeah, sure.
and mine mineral resources there, to Malaysia, Morocco, Brazil, you name it, to any central or remote areas. Like you turn this switch. Okay, today it's this energy is going to, I don't know, to Florida, where these the idea of the station in orbit is breaking all the geographically attached energy sources and the whole map of pipelines and shipping lanes. Is just like a new concept. It means that it is a decentralized energy distribution. So what if those systems change completely? And who holds the switch in the sky? For me, it's a big question. So I'm not a scientist. I'm not an engineer. I simply grew up inside a system where energy abundance was wielded as political power. And I understand what is at stake when energy systems shift. So politics would follow with a new landscape. And the big question is which one?
Yeah, that's a
And
big
I'm still looking for answers.
Yeah, that's a big question. Well, for our audience, just a quick mention, a space solar power satellite is very big. I mean, several kilometers big. It would be placed in geostationary orbit. And the system, for example, like Space Solar in the UK is developing called Cassiopeia, this would be equivalent to a nuclear power station. It would deliver about 1 gigawatt of power. So that's already quite incredible, but we would need hundreds of these, if not more, in the future to make a significant contribution to the world's energy use. So yeah, it is such an ambitious project, but
ambitious, absolutely humongous.
Yeah, it's very ambitious, but it has so much potential because it could lead to other things and help humanity eventually become a spacefaring species, especially if they establish manufacturing facilities on the moon to make this happen. It's very fantastic. Yeah. Well, we are at the beginning of something very, very exciting, Yelena, and you're the one who's making a documentary about it. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm very excited.
I'm
very excited about it. And as I said, the story is still unfolding, and I'm looking forward to the major demonstrations and to uncover these underground underdogs who are working very hard in their labs.
Yeah, who knows?
Building something that will revolutionize the energy landscape and possibly, I would say, political landscape as well.
So we are here. What are your next steps?
Our next steps is to follow the main demonstration, and some of them will start. JAXA is demonstrating end of the 2026, and then there's a number of demonstrations coming in 2027 by a number of different players. TerraSpark, Space Solar, there's robotics testing happening. There's a concert of TerraSpark in Portugal to beam microwave energy, basically beam from the air to the ground to electrify a concert. So that's a big and significant demonstration. And of course, demonstration of space to the ground will be essential. That will be like the breakthrough. So far, what happened with Caltech, I think there was just a signal from space to the ground, but not yet any kilowatt of energy. So I'm looking for this kilowatt of energy being transported. That magic wand that will happen and bring that power back home. So
one more question. What about the film community? I mean, you are a filmmaker, so what has been the reaction from the let's say the traditional film community as far as supporting your project or seeing it as a big potential for what it is?
For the film community, I think as well, it's been an educational journey. And in the very beginning, when we deposited our project, we applied a few times. I think that there were lots of questions and more questions than we ever expected. I think that nobody ever heard about this concept, so it was not much in media. But I think now there's a lot of more interest to the project, and we had an opportunity to pitch our project at Vision du Réel in April. So we pitched just recently, and we had also good questions, but more discovery and inspirational questions and the storyline thread that we're working on now. And basically, whoever wants to come and join board of sponsors, equity investment, welcome. You can connect with the project. I'm sure here will be some contact. You can send an email, find us online, the project, on the website, and also
Okay.
on LinkedIn, everywhere.
So we'll put your address of your website in the show notes. I was just thinking in this conversation, you've talked to the pioneers like John Mankins and Sanjay and Martin Sotow and Ed Tate and others, but actually you're also a pioneer in this, I mean, you are the film pioneer, it seems at the
The
moment.
film pioneer,
So,
exactly.
I mean, that's definitely worth some support,
Oh, thank you, Arthur, for your support and all the questions. And if people have questions to this podcast, and they can put them down in the comments, and I will look forward, exactly, to answer their questions.
Okay, great. Okay, Yelena, thanks so much. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you, Arthur, for the opportunity to share this story. And I'm looking forward to the story being unfolded and tell the story to the rest of the world.
Okay, and if you've enjoyed this video, please do not hesitate to subscribe and like it, because this helps us get some visibility on YouTube, and we need to spread the word. So I wish you a great day, Yelena, and
thank you.
I hope to see you again soon.
See you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.